Hello and welcome to Mapping Key Gaming Spotlight Disney Sidekicks, where we take a look at a character from the board game Disney Sidekicks. Now in this series we are going to look at the villains and the heroes and try to figure out the best way to survive. This game is immensely difficult. It is so difficult you can actually lose on the second turn. This game is absolutely insane. So we're going to take a look at the villains, figure out some of their weaknesses, figure out how they work so that you don't make a mistake when you're playing them. Then we're going to look at the sidekicks, take a look at their special powers, take a look at their power cards, and figure out, hey, how can we survive? So today we are going to be looking at Gaston. Now, Gaston, as you can see here, has a bunch of these little charm tokens. That's what these are right here. With his little face. These are his cards that he's going to use. And then this is his figure. Him right here, busting a flex. Which, his figure is actually pretty cool. It does have his quiver here in the back with some arrows. And you can definitely tell that this is Gaston. Okay. Now let's take a look at his setup. Now the setup for every villain in this game is going to be different. Now Gaston is going to deal with these charm tokens here. And so we're going to look at the back of his villain card here, and we're going to figure out how to set him up. So it says, give each player a charm token. So everyone is going to start with one of these already. Okay. And then set aside one charm token per player. So if there are two players in the game, you're going to take two and put them on the side. So each player will have one of these. So those will be dished out. And then the rest of them will go back into the box. They're not going to be used in the game. It says flip the villain card over and place one attack die token. That's the one with the slashes that looks like this right here. Okay, along with the set aside charm tokens on it. So you're just going to flip them over. You're just going to flip them over like this. You're going to throw the charm tokens for each of the other sidekicks. And then you're going to put one of the attack tokens on top of him. Okay, so you're going to put one of these attack tokens right on top of him, like that there. Now, normally you would line up here across the hearts on the bottom with stars. So as you attack him, you will eliminate the one star for each successful hit that you have, and then you're going to lower his health that way. Pretty easy. When he gets down to this right here and you successfully hit him, then you've defeated Gaston. I do have to make a note that in this game you do not want to kill all of the villains. You don't want to defeat all the villains. You have to leave at least one of them running around, because what will happen is when you defeat a villain, you bypass their cards as they come up in the villain deck. If you defeat all the villains, that will actually put you down to the final cards that get put into the deck. Those cards, if you cannot successfully unlock and save the heroes, then the game is over. So you actually give yourself a hard counter of 2 turns to complete the game. So just a heads up that you always have to have at least one villain running around. That way you can keep drawing cards. Because if the minute that you can't draw a villain card, then the game is over. A little persuasion. It reads, if a charm token must be given, but none are left, the sidekicks are powerless to resist Gaston, and the villains win. He has certain cards that come up, and they will dish out these 2 tokens that are stacked on him. Now, if he doesn't have any tokens to dish out, then he will automatically win. He can defeat you in the second turn of the first round, if you get a little bit of bad luck. Now, the one thing with Gaston is if you ever attack him, you successfully attack him, you can give him one of the charms back. well, you're going to be carrying one charm, right? Because you start the game with one. So if you attack him and successfully hit him, you can toss it back to him, and that'll make it a little bit easier. He does have an additional note down here that says, not for me. When you hit Gaston, you can return the one token. That's what that's just explaining what I just said right there. So theoretically, if you hit him and it's a 2-player game, I don't think he'll be able to dish out all of the tokens. So this is actually kind of super dangerous in the beginning, but after you hit him and you get rid of the token, then this actually doesn't really do much as far as actually being something to be afraid of. So now let's take a look at his cards. Okay, now his first card is right here, Eerie Silence. Choose any sidekick, they gain 1 star, add 1 villager to your space, and each adjacent to you. Now this is a card that I believe every villain has this, and it's called Eerie Silence. This card is super dangerous because it puts out so many villagers, and not just in your space, but in the adjacent spaces all around you. So if you're caught in one of those, I think there's 3 spots that you could actually, this card here will dish out 4 different villagers. So that makes this card super, super dangerous. Okay, and now on to his next card here, Rally the Crowd. Now Rally the Crowd is real simple. Add a new villager to Gaston's space and each neighboring space. So it is essentially the same thing as Eerie Silence, but instead of it being to the spaces around you, it's to the spaces around Gaston. Real simple. Now up here, it does automatically add 1 villager to the, I don't know what shape you would call that, the mountain there, the blue mountain. So that does make this a little bit more dangerous of a card, because this right here has the potential of doing, 5 different villagers. So there is that. And then at the bottom here, it does allow Gaston to move for 2 towards Lumiere. Now the next card is Brute Strength. Brute Strength, each sidekick has rescued their hero, loses 1 heart. So it's just a straight damage, if you were able to help your hero. But it's, in a game like this, depending on if it's towards the beginning of the game, this isn't a big deal, because if this is like the second card that comes up, chances are you haven't unlocked the castle, you haven't saved the hero, so this card isn't really going to affect you. Towards the end of the game, when you have unlocked the hero, you've unlocked the castle and you've saved the hero, then most likely you're going to have taken some hits at that point, and losing an extra heart is not going to feel good. It does put out 1 additional villager here at that, I don't know what that is, it's supposed to be like a frozen tree, I guess, and it does put out 1 guard. And then the next card for him is Full of Surprises. Now, Full of Surprises, add 1 guard to Gaston's space and each space adjacent to him. Then each henchman attacks the sidekick on their space, if any. What this does is that it helps populate the board with guards, and then they attack, and then at the very bottom, boom, it's going to throw an additional guard down. So this card is actually a little tricky. If this is played at the wrong time, you're looking at throwing at least 1 guard into the castle. Actually, I think no matter what, you're going to be throwing an extra guard. You're going to be throwing this extra guard here into the castle. So that's the power of Gaston. And then he does throw out 1 more villager there, as you can see at the top, to wherever the green tree is. And then here we have Despicable Plans. So Despicable Plans, if any sidekick has 2 or more charm tokens, Gaston gains an attack die token. Now, like I had said before, this is one of those cards where most likely the charm token isn't going to be in effect. You're not going to be running around with 2 charm tokens. If you're running around with 2 charm tokens, then you're on the brink of losing the game anyway. And I mean, I know he's going to hit a little bit harder if this happens to come out and you have 2 charm tokens on you, but this does limit him to getting only one of these, one attack token. And it also throws out a villager here at the tower there, and then he does move 2 closer to Lumiere. Then we have Intimidation and Positively Primal. Now both of these cards are essentially the same. We're going to put them here side by side here. So the differences on these two here are that the villager here on this card here goes to, I don't know what symbol that's supposed to be, the tree there in the orange section, and then on this card here it's to put one villager at the cactus, and then both of them have Gaston moving 1 closer to Lumiere. But the actual meat and potatoes of the card are the same. Give 1 charm token to the sidekick nearest to Gaston. If multiple are closest, choose 1. Then each sidekick with a charm token must either spend 1 star or lose 1 health for each charm token they have. This is what I was talking about. If he gets in a position where, in like a 2-player game, this really affects a 2-player game. If this comes out, like I said, the second turn or the third turn, and you guys are like surrounding him and maybe trying to coordinate something, to attack and finish him off, and this card comes out, either one of these, you're both looking at pulling the 2 charm tokens and game's over. And then if you happen to survive this, you're most likely looking at losing the 1 health or paying the star for it. So that is Gaston's so those are his cards. He's probably the simplest one in terms of he doesn't have a bunch of guys running around trying to kill you. The main thing with him is, attacking him to get the charms off of you, and then he doesn't have a way of really like super powering himself up. He's running around, hitting for only 1. So I think he's actually maybe a little, towards the easier side of the characters for you to choose. And when we look at Lumiere can actually play with the charm tokens a little bit. So, but that'll be in our next video. Okay, so some final thoughts here on Gaston. Gaston seems to actually be the easiest of the villains for you to go up against. His main mechanic of these charms, like I said, is it'll be difficult in the beginning of the game, but not so much towards the end. He doesn't hit super hard like Scar with all the hyenas. He doesn't have any kind of like crazy mechanic like Jafar or Maleficent. Maleficent's probably the hardest out of all the villains. So if you're looking for a simpler villain out of the box, definitely look at Gaston. And if you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I will have, like I said, more videos coming out like this where we look at the individual characters from Disney Sidekicks, and we can kind of figure out, together how they work, how their different powers and cards work. So be on the lookout for that. And down in the comments below, let me know if you have any questions on Gaston, where I can answer them and help you out with that. Or if you have any other questions on Disney Sidekicks, and I may be able to address them in a future video. So until next time, happy hunting.